everybody, I'm your host Wristpin. Today we're going to be doing a review on the Bauer 1/2" 20 volt lithium brushed impact. For everybody's favorite trusty cheap tool store, Harbor Freight. So this review is going to be a little different from all the other reviews I've done so far on this channel. Most of the tools in those reviews I've had for, let's say, a year and 6 months, 6 months, 3 months. The big point I try to make with a lot of these review videos is when I get the tool, I take it to work and I test it out and I see what it can do in a shop that works primarily on heavy diesel application, but as well as some gas rigs too. So we go from heavy duty, medium duty, all the way down to light duty, and we can see how the tool handles. So that's primarily the premise of a lot of these videos. Haven't had the tool for a crazy amount of time, and here's what I think about it after a few months in a heavy environment. But this one, I've had this impact for 3 years. 3 years in the shop, 3 years bringing it home, working on projects at home, 3 years of throwing it in tool bags and taking it to buddies' houses or going to the junkyard, you name it. This impact has seen it, and it's done it, and it's been there. And she definitely shows. This thing is definitely been tossed across the shop floor a few times here and there. And you know what? For being a cheaper end impact, all this rubber and plastic that they put on it has definitely protected it. She has held up. And I won't lie, I have definitely made this sucker smoke a few times. And every time, I thought that'd be the death of it. But somehow, some way, she still chooches and she's still running. Granted, I'd probably be horrified if I opened up the internals of that sucker. As far as I know, tomorrow is her last day. I can go to pull off a set of lug nuts on, just a basic pickup truck or a small little Honda Civic, and then that's all she wrote. She can be done. But as far as I'm concerned, for 3 years, she's stood the test of time. A little caveat to those 3 years. This has never been my 100% go-to impact. To call it for go-tos is my medium duty, my light duty, especially lug nuts. This has been my little lug nut gun. Generally, if I'm going to do brakes or pull off tires for anything, if I'm not going to need any other kind of impact for whatever I'm doing, generally this is what I grab. Or if I'm going to be doing some light duty suspension parts, anything that I don't think is going to be over 200 foot-pounds, I'm generally going to grab this gun. Now, once we start passing that range, give or take, is probably when I'm going to grab my Mac Air Impact and use that instead. And then also I've got a bigger 3/4 gun that I run for anything, that's going to be, big and huge. And then also I got a 1-inch gun. That's the shops that I can turn to, especially when I'm working on, pulling off semi wheels, which, as you guys don't know, those are 500 foot-pounds. So 9 times out of 10, always make sure you're going with your OEM spec, but 9 times out of 10, it's about 500 foot-pounds spec for those. And this, for that, complete joke. Harbor Freight advertises that this can do, I think it was like 450 foot-pound breakaway torque. Yeah, no, that ain't happening, bud. I mean, maybe on a good day with a brand new fully charged 5 amp hour battery and this sucker being right out of the box, 320, 350, I don't know. I've never actually torqued a bolt down just to see what this thing could do when it comes to breakaway. But I could tell you, 9 times out of 10, any small car, or any car for that matter, any small truck, all the way up to Ford F-350s to Dodge 3500s and the Ram Series 3500s, you name it, pretty much I've been able to pull off any lug nut all the way up until we're talking semi-truck range. Even some Bud wheels, if you guys are familiar with Bud wheels with Isuzus and stuff like that. Older Isuzus, not the newer ones. These have been able to work, surprisingly. I mean, this has worked, surprisingly, with the correct socket, But, yeah, this has been a little hammer when it comes to those things. Smaller suspension parts, you name it, it could do it. I just will caveat that this is not your end-all, be-all. I do have other 1/2-inch impacts that can, do the same job, and I always keep that in mind when I grab this little sucker. Basically, the main point I'm making there is that anything that this can do just as well. The only difference is it's stubbier, and I have to use a more powerful battery than what generally comes with this Milwaukee when you buy it, if you buy it with a battery. But as a good starter, mid-sized to larger impact, it is a great first step and a great first start. Professional side of things, yeah, it wouldn't be my first choice, but if you're just getting off the ground and this is all you can afford, that's not bad at all. Like, here, let me get this piece out of the way. To kind of put it in perspective, when I bought this, it came with I bought it as a package. It was the Impact, this 1.5 amp hour battery, and a basic charger, not a fast charger. But all of that, $100. Granted, this was 3 years ago, but that's still not bad for everything you're getting. Later on down the road, I did step up and buy the 5 amp hour battery, and I did see a difference in power. I don't know, maybe it's the hand dyno or something. I don't know. I feel like I saw a difference. I'm sure Torque Test channel, if they really wanted to break everything down, I'm sure that I'm completely dead wrong, but everybody says I'm wrong all the time, especially in my comment section, but that's a whole other story for another day. I will say, though, stay away from the 3 amp hour batteries. Complete junk. Absolute junk. I regret that purchase completely. That battery lasted me about all of 3 weeks, and then one day it just stopped charging. So yeah, it's nice and expensive paperweight at this point in time. So yeah, and they offer a clearance plan or a warranty plan or protection plan. That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, they offered a protection plan. I think it was for like another $10-15 for like 2 years. And yeah, I haven't needed it. She has been rocking and rolling and doing good. It's been a nice little hammer, but I'll tell you one thing. Everything I've put this through, I've covered it in oils, fuels, greases, you name it. Granted, I've tried to clean whatever I can out of this brush mechanism. I'm sure there is untold amounts of schmew stuffed in there, but I mean, it's still rock and rolling. Whew. Wish you guys had smell-o-vision. It doesn't smell good when that thing's running. So, I mean, her days are definitely numbered. But as a good starter and, have no other option, and it's a good cheapo, for 3 years, she's definitely paid for herself. I'll tell you that one for free. One thing that I really have a gripe with this Impact is the lock ring or the hog ring, depends on what you want to call it, really. I don't like how it grips. So here I have a vintage snap-on for you purists out there, and I don't like how it holds. Like, as you can see, like, yes, this impact socket's seen some days in its time, but how it's all kind of real loosey-goosey on there. And I mean, even to kind of put my point further, here's a default, like a brand new one. I think I barely used this socket, honestly, and still kind of the same game. I wish that they would have went with like a ball detent style, or maybe just a thicker lock ring. And this has always been an issue with this Impact. It's nothing new. That's not 3 years of wear. I promise you, that's something that I've always had an issue with this Impact. And I don't know, maybe it's different with other ones. If you have one of these yourself, let me comment down below. I'd love to hear your opinion if yours doesn't do that. But that's something I've always had an issue with this Impact. But, that is a small gripe for the price, because it's not like the impacts are flying off of it, but she still sends. Well, in conclusion, if I was to give this Impact a 1 out of 10 being the worst tool ever made in the world, and 10 out of 10 being God's gift to Earth when it comes to tools, honestly, after 3 years of using this little piece of junk, I have to give it a solid 5. It's been okay. Not good, not amazing, but not bad, and not crappy. It's just been a solid middle of the road. Definitely great for a beginner. Definitely great for a DIYer, home mechanic. And if you're just getting started on the industry, I wouldn't say it's a bad choice. It's definitely bigger, it's definitely bulky, but for what it is and the price that you're paying, and I think these still go around just for the bare tool alone, I think somewhere around like 50-60 bucks. If you can get some batteries for cheap and a cheap charger, I wouldn't say no. It's definitely not going to be your end-all be-all, but to get your foot in the door with a starter impact, unless you can find a better deal with better specs or just the same amount of specs, but at that point in time we're splitting hairs, I'd say go with that, but otherwise go with this little sucker if you're starting out. Not a bad little impact for what it is. However, you do need to keep in mind there is a trade-off for power, for price point. She's not the strongest in the world, but she'll get you started at least. Well, thank you all so very much for watching. I really appreciate you guys tuning in for another tool review. Please consider liking the video if you liked it, disliking if you didn't like it. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are. Please consider subscribing. It really helps me out. I do other tool review videos such as this one, as well as I have videos on my build series of my Mazda Miata drift build, and as well as anytime I can have a camera going and filming while I'm working on stuff, so I can be able to drop some knowledge on you guys, or just take you along for the ride, give you guys something entertaining to watch with turning wrenches and having a good time. But again, thank you guys all for watching. Hope this video was helpful, and y'all have a good one.